So I know when I'm I know when I'm entering new ground, when I have a different thought process or a new epiphany that somebody must respond to and troll me. And that happened yesterday, and that was a good thing because it means that I'm actually covering new ground, asking new questions, discovering new parts of, well, discovering blind spots in myself and in humanity. And I'm exposing the blind spots. I'm shining the light that was in the dark, shining light on what was in the dark. And when you're in it, you can't see it. When it's all around you, you can't see it. That's what the matrix is. That's what the matrix is. The matrix is that it is all around you. It is everything, and you can't even see it. You can't even see when you're in it. It's only when you step out of the matrix, if you were to use that cliche since who knows when, 1999, right? It's when you step out of the matrix is when you actually see reality for what it is. You see what monsters we have created in ourselves and our kids, in our society, and it was done for a reason. It was purposely done. The system purposely created monsters to see if they can get the best innovation out of the monsters, and they can see all the different scenarios that could ever come up with all the belief systems that ever came to be ever since day one, whenever that was. And so when that person trolled me and I looked at their I'm not going to say what the profile pic is, I'm not even going to go there, but it was like, yeah, okay, I understand now where that person's coming from. Because I'm talking about abuse of power. I'm coming from the point of absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's not just in your government. See, people are like, oh, about the anti-government and anti-establishment, anti-this, anti-that. But they don't realize their belief systems hold absolute power. That their belief systems exemplify their belief in absolute power, corrupting absolutely. Their belief systems, their lifestyles, their politics, religion, and science is about abuse of power. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Abuse of power. Why do you think there's so much homicides, genocides, and domestic violence and infanticides? Why there's so much violence, period? Because we've been bred to we're bred to experience absolute power. Not just with the government, not just being a politician, but also being a mother and a father, a guardian, a guru, a licensed professional, someone who holds a degree, someone of influence, someone of distinction. That's absolute power. Corrupting absolutely. Obviously, leaders of countries. And when you have absolute power corrupting absolutely, what do you think you're breeding in the population? People who are power hungry. People who think that they are immune to, well, people who think that they can just control someone and convert someone and destroy someone at the drop of a dime. People who find ways to take microbial share, market share, step on people to get ahead. Oh, we developed monsters in our society. And then I figured out that the system hybridized the despots like a Hitler and a Charles Manson, rolled them into a type of little ball, and then gave people the license to do what they do within controlled circumstances. And if they got out of line and turned into someone who is really despotic, or a serial killer, or someone who is a guru that was selling remedies without a license and that wasn't FDA approved, then they would throw the book at them or hold them accountable for violating the laws and rules. But the system purposely gave people absolute power through having children, through friends and families and group associations, group mentality, politics, religion, and science. They gave people what they were dying for: power, prestige, pleasure, paradise, influence. When someone says you should be a mother because it's the most amazing experience in the world, yeah, that's called being drunk with power. When you are a mother, you're drunk with power. Now you're a goddess or a god, and now you will rule with an iron fist or with a soft fist. But either way, you cross that soft-fisted mother, she's not nice anymore. And people give licenses to mothers and fathers to act any way they want, so as long as they are justifying the protection of their child. And then that's also how the system leverages them through their children. So they give you a child to give you power. They give you a child to also take away your power. And that's some crazy shit, man. That's some crazy shit. And so I figured out the system took the characteristics of the Charles Mansons and the Hitlers and hybridized them using hate and love and drug addiction and legalism to control their friends and family and followers. And so imagine all these little trolls out there reading my information that are drunk with power because of their sexuality, orientation, their family, their belief system, and politics and religion and science stuff. And so anyone that challenges or puts a mirror up to their face and saying, hey, you're the one that probably abuses your power. All sexuality is abuse of power. All of it is. When you finally hit that nerve where people are finally looking at themselves, how they have abused their power, that's even socially acceptable. Oh, no, they don't like it. They don't want to see it. They don't want to look at it. They'll say, I'm the devil. Oh, really? Really? So the system took the characteristics of Charles Manson, Hitler, and hybridized them using hate and love and drug addiction and legalism to control their friends and family and followers. Now watch the influential men and women protesting climate change, chemtrails in the food, air, and water. It is eerie. Remember, I'm still in the purge process. Eventually, I will have nothing left to say. Eventually, I'll be very complete with even the J-World crap that I went through the last 7 years. But I'm still getting it out because now I see what happened in the J-World. I was getting power. People were trying to knock me off my thing and try to get power from me because they want to be powerful. It was all a power struggle back in the early J-World days, whether it was the moderators or people that didn't believe my information or resisted my information. And they pulled out every stop to try to take away my power. And so I understand now from this vantage point, once I was able to look at both sides of the issue around cannabis and Israel, okay, when I was taking those two one-sided, way of looking at stuff, then I unlocked another epiphany. So I'm still getting all this out as far as abuse of power. Whether I abused the power way back when or someone else tried to abuse their power way back when. But again, I was never the aggressor. I was trying to put out a different thought process that people were trying to knock me off my whatever and take away my power. But now I see the connection between World War II and the 1960s. Religious revival, legalism, drug addiction, innovation. And you can't change people. They don't even want to change themselves. So they'll resist everything and everybody and become dangerous. So I observe and stay out of your way. And so I hope the best for you. So I'm going up my timeline since the last video. Old self equals demon competing with new self, not a demon. Okay, so we were trying to figure out what demons are. Demons are your old self. The old part of you that isn't evolving and it's fighting with the new self. And then relative to which vantage point you're coming from, the new and the old self, you'll think your new self is the enemy if you're struggling for power. And if you are a new self, then you have your old self and you'll think the old self is the enemy if there's a vantage point that you can come from when it comes to struggling for power. And so then that gets projected out and people start looking for the enemy when they don't realize they hold the enemy within and they're just projecting. Okay? And so weak and strong forces work together called one or neo. That's within you, the positive and negative. And then that's also then the micro to the macro. That's the universe. All right, so the theory of everything are the umbrella forces connecting the micro and the macro and how one characterizes all energy via politics, religion, and science. Do you have the capability to connect everything together? And so I'm going through now why people turn to caffeine or why they turn to downers, why they turn to uppers or downers. Blood type O's love caffeine and could be amphetamine users because of their sluggish energy system. Now I see why I loved coffee so much in the past and why I love espresso shots. We, type O's, do not have what A and B or ABs have as far as the antigen programming with no balancing force of antibodies for their own blood types. So there's constant energy. Okay? Blood types A and B are live wires as they naturally produce energy, but at the expense of their principle, which is their vital organs, as they have limited reserves or antibodies, which is why they struggle to keep the weight on, because the amount of energy that is using up their body, mind, and spirit. And it's all that kinetic energy in the brain, i.e. why the VACCINESs were and are supposed to fill in the gaps. But in this environment, growth is too exponential. People are not getting ahead of their growth or releasing the excessive growth, and diseases set in. So blood type A and B might turn to downers like cannabis to slow down their brains and gut. RH negatives might turn to pot. RH positives might turn to coffee. Okay, so RH negatives turn to pot to slow it down, right? Because that RH negative is like an A and B antigen. Okay, and RH positive might turn to coffee because they have antibodies balancing out the energy and they need the extra push, and so they drink coffee to catalyze the adrenal glands. Now you see how literal shit works. If you are blood type A and B and or RH negative addicted to uppers in this environment, you will burn through your lifelines faster. If one must be skinny, hot, sexual, and muscular, you are and will be burning through your lifelines faster. If one just eats but doesn't release properly, they become as big as a house and or risk cancer diagnosis or develop fast-moving growths. I gotta blow my nose. And so then, here I am now. People are gonna be like, who are suffering from disorders and have received diagnosis. I mean, they're gonna think that I'm being a little catty, ice-cold bitch. But you deserve somebody else's truth, and you take what you want from it and leave the rest. It is lucrative to be sick, and it's true. It's lucrative to be sick, suffering, lonely, and owning your diseases. No one cares about you when you're not suffering, but when you are suffering, everyone loves you, and that's called abuse of power. People want to be around people who are suffering because they want to feel powerful, to make them feel good, to save them from whatever ails them. When you surround yourself by lesser beings, those that are struggling, those that are needing your help all the time, those that are lesser intelligent, that's a power dynamic that is obvious. Because now you want to be the all-powerful person to solve all their problems. And so those who need that release or need that dynamic, they're also suffering. And so the suffering surround themselves with the suffering, and that's group dynamics. That's the family. If no one cares about you when you're not suffering, but when you are suffering, everyone loves you. Munchausen syndrome exists for a reason. When well people find ways to get love and attention. Munchausen syndrome is a mental disorder that causes people to fake illnesses to get attention and sympathy. It is also known as a facetious disorder imposed on self. Okay? Which is why people own their sicknesses. Be happy. No one loves you because you are well. Okay? So I've had to come to terms with that. I've been mostly well. I've had my PMS, but no one understood that. They laughed at me for it, but I just stayed at home. Maybe I didn't go to birthday parties. Maybe I didn't buy expensive gifts for people because I was trying to deal with my disease and work at the same time. And it's not like you're going to get paid a lot of amount of money if you're not consistent, right? And so be happy no one loves you because you are well. Laugh out loud, right? Why do humans die suddenly? They love being sick because they get attention, gifts, friends, family, sympathy, and poor you. Is when you are doing well, you are left alone. Predators, okay? Because now I don't want people to be thinking like, oh my God, everyone's a predator. But they are on some level, right? Predator and prey. It's the circle of life, right? Predators are attracted to death and dying and babies and animals. And this is probably where I've probably got people and pissed them off. Predators are attracted to death and dying and babies and animals. And that's why the Vampire Diaries and why Twilight and everything glamorized vampires. Because if they knew they were talking about you and your families and your friends, people would be like, I'm not watching Twilight or Vampire Diaries. But they're trying to tell you that people surround themselves by things that they need to feed on. When you are so power hungry, you are feeding on the blood of animals and babies. But here's the thing, that's why we have lab created meat that will happen in the future. So we're not feeding on sentient beings that do feel pain and are intelligent. Everything is relative, but it begs the question, why are you attracted to having babies and animals around you and looking hot and sexual? You are either relatively predatory in a socially acceptable way, or you choose to attract predators. What is the attraction to the things that cannot defend themselves, really? What is the attraction to lording yourself over something less than you? What is the attraction to be omnipotent to something that is less intelligent than you? What is the attraction to tell someone, an animal or a child, when to eat, when to sleep, what to do? What is the attraction to that? When I went out there on my deck and saw the squirrel eating something in the tree and I left out apples for them, that was nice. I like watching animals and feral cats. I like watching the wild. I don't like killing the wild. People do. But I don't want to hold them, I don't want to go and save them and hold them fucking hostage, which people do. They want to go and save everything out there. But hey, Mother Nature is what it is. But you know how people breed domesticated animals and then let them go because they don't have the means to take care of them. They don't want to take care of them. So they let their animals go. And so then the animal, it looks like it's starving because it's out there. But that's part of the circle of life. Then people go there and like want to go and save it. And okay, fine. I guess that's your prerogative. But what is the attraction to tell someone, an animal or a child, when to eat, when to sleep, and what to do? What is the attraction to that? And then I answered my own question then later on today, because it's about abuse of power and people who are power hungry, feeding off the energy of what they can dictate and lord over. That's why you have the queen bee in families and in group situations. Why when girls get together, there's always a queen bee because she's feeding off her minions. And if you don't get in line, she will ice your ass out or she will attack you. And she will get her minions to do that in so many different ways. Oh, I've been in those situations. I know exactly what's going on. And I can't get mad at it. I used to be mad at that. But now I can't get mad at it because that's the circle of life when it comes to people who have been bred to be animals, farm animals, bred to play these games of abuse of power and whatever, and to constantly reproduce children. What is the attraction? Tell someone what to do with their body, mind, and spirit, and what to believe in. What is the attraction to being someone's God in their world? This begs the question. Why are people so power hungry over things less than themselves? Okay? And I figured out the questions because they're in deficit. They're deficient. What do you mean? Well, when you're losing power, you got to gain it somewhere. So when people, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You have a kid, you lose power, and then you feed on that kid. They are your everything. But you purposely took parts of yourself and separated them from your core being and turned them into something that you feed on. It's like when someone bites their nails. They're feeding on themselves. When someone cuts off their arm and eats it. That's what people do when they have children and family, is that they need to feed on something. They need something to keep them company because they need some power to lord over, and they want it to be something that is lesser than themselves. So they feel like they're a god, and then sometimes people abuse their power, and that's why you get child abuse. That's why you get all these different things. And some people destroy their children too. So it's like insurance agents, that they only get love when shiz goes wrong. Now you see why so much suffering in the world. It makes money and social capital, And people are addicted to suffering. One day I will have nothing left to say because I won't be suffering anymore. I look forward to that day. I hate the suffering, but it is necessary until it is not, and I let it go. Does this make me out to be a cold bitch? Because yeah, when I'm initializing a very new question of why people are attracted to surrounding themselves by lesser intelligent beings or by minions. Oh God. All right. Block. I hate these people when they do this shit. I'm an idiot for being like that. Hold on. Hold on. Block. Block. Confirm. All right. All right. All right. Sorry about that. I thought I would be open and allow someone on Facebook because of a mutual friend, and it turned out to be someone from a third world country that thinks that they can pick up on a girl on Facebook. It's interesting, the dynamics out there. Delete chat. Delete chat. Okay. All right. That's why I don't like dealing with third world countries. I really don't. All right, let me go back to where I was. That was my own fault. I apologize. I give people chances and they're just idiotic. All right. All right. So let me go back to where I was. So yeah, does this, because when I'm asking the initial question that people haven't been ever asked before, it's going to rub people the wrong way because they think, oh yeah, having children and animals is such a great thing. Why is it such a great thing? What are you feeding off of? What it is, what are you attracted to? What are you addicted to? It's the power and control. When you have a dependent, it is the ultimate power and control. And that's why with relationships, when someone makes the majority amount of money or makes all the money, yeah, it's a source of power. And men have been given that power because they're so consistent. They don't get pregnant, they get people pregnant. They don't have children. I mean, they have children, but they go to work and then come home and bring home the bacon and expect the house to be clean, the kids to be well behaved, and food on the table. Okay, so we know we've given men so much power to wield over their wives and their girlfriends, and even sexuality. When men have the power to give it, and the women or the men have to take it, that's a power dynamic. That's could be also skewed as abuse of power. But then that's why we have consent. But then we have girls that are married off at 23. Does she have the power to really consent? Well, 18. And so we have these mothers that pimp out their daughters who doesn't even know what the hell she's consenting to. And there you go. She's done. She's cooked. Her goose has been cooked. Her mother did it to her, but her whole family did it to her. And so does this make me out to be a cold bitch? Probably, but it is a truth many refuse to face because they're in it. And they must go through the suffering, and some cannot let it go or won't let it go. Some have no ability to let it go. The suffering, the need for power and control, and then also not even facing that their need for power and control is also abuse of power. This truth will not win me any friends. I know that. But you see how the exploitation of sickness is lucrative and makes trillions of dollars, because with sickness is then somebody coming in and saving somebody. And so you're giving somebody the power to save you. You made them out to be a god. So that's why I don't have a group. Anyone that really kisses my ass and you can tell them they're not reading the room and they're trying to suck up to me, I don't like that. I'm not trying to be your guru. I'm not trying to have you look up to me. I'm not trying to answer your questions on the level that people want me to answer their questions. So that's why I don't have groups. I don't want to be too much in conversation with people around this to where they're then picking my brain so much to then try to use me as that savior because they want me to be that all-powerful person. And so that way they can be an all-powerful person to somebody else once they pick my brain. No. And so you see how the exploitation of sickness is lucrative and makes trillions of dollars. When you are suffering, when you are in it suffering, you will hate me for this info. Remember, I also went through the suffering and received attention, even unwanted attention. It is not what it is cracked up to be. Suffer, get it over with, and move on. Your friends and family will never tell you this. They are also suffering and receive money, fame, and social capital. Okay? But then I went to the next level, of which then the troll had to come out. What if you choose to surround yourself with equals, not dependents? This whole thing with, the old woman living in a shoe with 1 million kids. And then I'm watching Grey's Anatomy, and they're all about, oh yeah, family and surgery, and everything's about surgery, and everything's about surgery, and surgery, and surgery. I'm like, Jesus. It's like a regular glorification of have a bunch of kids, and here, let's open you up and have a bunch of heart surgery and brain surgery and all this other stuff, and experimental surgery. What if you choose to surround yourself with equals, not dependents? Oh my God, life could be so different. When husband and wife or companions are one equal without lording themselves over dependents, less intelligent life forms, okay? That's what it means to be around your equal. When a husband and wife or companions are one equal without lording themselves over dependents, less intelligent life forms. Predators are attracted to power and control over another life form's body, mind, and spirit. Prey and predator work together and are interchangeable because they're both feeding off each other. No different than what I said before about predator and prey. Victim and perpetrator, they feed off each other. Okay? And so we're like, oh, I have a dog. Okay, so you're feeding off that animal's energy. You're lording yourself over that energy, that dog or that cat. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to take you to the vet. So now that vet has power and control over that dog's and cat's life. Just like when you put your kids in the hospital or when you put yourself in the hospital, now you're giving somebody else power over your life. And then when you've lost power because you gave it away to somebody else to lord over, then people are looking to go and regain and recoup those resources. That's right now the circle of life of predator and prey. And people become very dangerous when they become that much in deficit, having to force themselves to give their power over to somebody else, and they keep losing power, and there's where you get all the activists. When you are against the Illuminati and the pyramid, all seeing eye, but need to be at the top of the pyramid in your social circle or household, who are you kidding? People who depend on minions to do their bidding and fight their fights are the Illuminati. They are the pyramids. And people who surround themselves with animals and children and blind followers, they bask in the power of their influence and power over lesser beings. But they call love wearing things down so they can own it and destroy it when necessary. And the system is doing that to you, and yet you're willing to do that to somebody else, and then you're resisting it. And you call yourself a truther, but cannot face the truth of who you are to the lesser beings in your world. You are in denial, and you put on a good face. Eventually the world will see right through it. That's the pot calling the kettle black. You don't like being used and destroyed when not useful. Look at what you're doing in your own family and pets, and even loved ones. So the person that was trolling me said, oh, something about Dr. Phil. I don't remember what she said about Dr. Phil. I just deleted it. But she definitely has a sexual orientation that she's willing, whatever that is. And that's fine. Good for her. But I know where it comes from. A lot of the people that have trolled me were all about their sexuality or their family, their kids and all that. Or they have grandmas and grandpas, the elderly in their world. And when you have kids, grandma and grandpa, and you have animals, and someone is challenging your power over them, people come out swinging because they don't want to lose that power over that animal, over that child, over their parents who are deteriorating. So it's not a coincidence, not a surprise. The trolls that I had are people who are lording themselves over somebody and are trying to lord themselves over me, trying to convert me to their way, trying to wear me down through hate. Or there are ones that say, oh, I love Jillian so much, and wear me down through love. Those are two sides of the same coin. We are the Illuminati until we figure out our addictions to owning and possessing other life forms to the point of destruction. When humans are out of control in their own lives, they must control another life form, even if they must reproduce something to control. And that's where you get the family. When people have children, they're told, have a child. It's not even that they're even consciously doing this. They're just told, have a child. Watching Grey's Anatomy, the whole thing of having family and children, and even some of the YouTubers that are exposing the whole Shanann Watts and Chris Watts case and Nicole Kessinger, and they're saying, oh, it's only natural to have a kid and have this and have that. And it's just, people just do, they don't even know why they want families. They're just told to have a family. They're just told that that's the thing to do, is to have a baby, is to weaken your own genetic line and have a child so you can lord the power, so you can experience the power you have over another life form, or have a pet. And remember, I wanted a pet. They got me a pet 9 years ago, or how many years ago, and I felt I had the power over my dog, and I did. I was able to keep her alive, and she was still alive even towards the end. But since that operation that she received, because this is a no-kill shelter area, well, those holes came back. And I really wanted to have those holes fill in with the food, but it takes time. But those holes came back because the cures were draining. They wore off. They were being released. And yeah, nobody's equipped to watch the suffering of anything. Okay? So I even wanted an animal because I wanted to feel like I was important to something and I wanted to lord myself over something. I don't want to give that power away to a vet or anyone else to have the power of life and death over. My dog was still alive when she was in my arms. She was still alive. She wasn't whining. Really. She wasn't whining. She was dealing with whatever injuries that were done to her back in the vet system when they had the power of life and death of drilling holes in fucking animals. When the surgery system drills holes in people, that's the power of life and death over people. And we've given people licenses to lord their power of life and death over other human beings. When humans are out of control in their own lives, they also resist person, places, or things, and then look for something to control because they fail to control themselves. And I'm like, ooh, when you are using animals as protection and the system bred you to be protection and then turn to climate change via CCINESs to regulate the life, how is that any different than what you're doing to your animal? So you're all resisting climate change and all the different therapies out there, but yet you are giving your animals and your kids elderberry syrup and different remedies and oncology, okay, as protection. What you're doing to your animals and children and yourselves are no different than what the system is doing to you. And yet you're resisting it, but you're doing the same fucking thing. Use it for protection, entertainment, and when it's used up, time to put it down, fail to protect it, and must be put down. That's what people do to their animals and even their children and their mom and dad when they're dying in hospice or palliative care. So the system is doing that to you, and you're doing that to your dependents, pets, family, and friends. No problem giving them antibiotics, right? No problem giving them things that are anti-life. If you want the system to change from being so predatory to children and animals and people, maybe it's time to look at what you've done with your kids, pets, and families. The government is a reflection of the people, addicted to power, pleasure, paradise, and then died suddenly. And I'm living my beliefs. The animals in my backyard are my equals. The animals in my backyard are my equals. Sometimes I leave them apples, like the squirrels. I don't control their life. I don't capture them and hold them hostage and make them my pet. My husband is autonomous. We work together. We want no children or pets. I'm not trying to lord my position over anyone or anything, and I don't care what you do in your world. I'm not telling you what to think or feel. I just observe behaviors and I report it. Remember, I played the game as well, and it was a suffering. And I will never be in that position again. I will never take advantage of my position as a human over another life form. I will let the government do that. And so if life is disposable to you, if animals and children and friends and family are disposable to you, the government will assume you are disposable to them. The government will treat you accordingly. You have to think so much better for yourself and live sustainability. Or you will be cannon fodder and disposable to the next situation that you will fall for inevitably. This is what this chick, that's right, this is what she was trolling me about. Animals who live in the wild are my equals because nature will determine their survival. It is not up to me to destroy them or save them. The domestication of people and animals has caused godlike mentalities that are so destructive, but it had to be done to develop the best prototype in humans. It is when you are now made to make life or death situations over a lesser intelligent life form do people become inflated with power as they keep collecting souls. That is a dangerous power to have over anyone or anything. I do not want that power over any animal, child, or other human being. I will leave that power to my government because absolute power corrupts absolutely. And people who are offended by this information have been corrupted by the absolute power they hold over their friends and family, animals, and other humans. Once people get a taste of power over children, friends, and family, they will fight to keep that power until it destroys everyone and everything, which is why the government is speeding up the particles. Most of you are so power hungry, you have no problem collecting souls and consuming everything until total annihilation. People cannot even see or admit how corrupted they are and have been. Once you stand on your own 2 feet for such a long time and you're not surrounded by people you are consuming simultaneously, maybe that will be a time to reconsider what actual relationships mean. Right now, people cannot even reconsider relationships because they're too busy consuming their friends and family and pets for survival. People are suffering astronomically. I'm not even there yet. I still have a long way to go. I'm in the trenches with you all, and I'm also observing myself and all of you simultaneously. I'm still married. I'm still straddling the old world and the new world, looking forward to the new world. The process is extraordinary if you can even admit the corruption you have within. Oh, and I've been able to admit the corruption I had within. And I released those fucking demons. And the system developed predators because they gave you licenses to have power over life and death over other people. They gave you licenses to guide people's thought processes through the healing world. The system corrupted you with the power you have over your audience. And when you get a license to guide someone and give them a therapy, whether it's talk therapy or medical therapy or some healing therapy, that's a power people have a hard time releasing. People get drunk with that kind of power. That's why I've chased away the holistic people who think they have that kind of power in my world. I've chased away the energy healing people because of their corruption of that power. I don't want any licensed professional that deals with people and supplements drunk with power. If I'm in a car accident, unconscious, and their license says that they must stabilize me through triage, I will pay for their services and I will rebuild at home. I will not give somebody willingly power over my life and death. Okay? I can be in a business contract like a marriage, but I will not give away my power freely to other people. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. I even have to check my power over others. And if I feel I'm too influential over you, I will chase you away. And I've done that. And I will continue to do that. So the less liked you are, that's still people worshiping you through resistance. And I chase them away as well. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. You really want to be dealing with equals. You don't want to deal with people who think you are less than you or they think you're above them. You seriously want to deal with equals. And sometimes you might have to be by yourself because either people look up to you or they look down at you. And you don't want to be in that position. You don't want people looking up at you or down to you. And people have a hard time looking at you in your eyes. So it's better to be on your own if you want to be uncorrupted from the power, pleasure, and paradise people are addicted to. And they will try to force on you. When people look up to you, they will destroy you. And when the people look down at you, they will destroy you. Cult followers are destructive. That's in all politics, all religions, and all science dogmatic principles. That's the group mentality. Group mentality is destructive. So I just walk the fuck away. That's who the troll was responding to, was this. Because when people are drunk with power, anyone that challenges their power, they are coming out swinging. That's what you're watching now. Hereditary. So someone was saying that they have ADD or ADHD and that it's hereditary and it's from trauma. I'm like, okay, wait. Hereditary is not a death sentence. It does not have to be a death sentence. When you own nothing and you're happy, you released ownership of all the diseases and trauma in the past genetic lines. Ownership does not always have its privileges to you, but ownership may have its privileges to somebody else. Be careful what you think you should own. You could be owning trauma and drama forever. Have discernment. But if you don't have the capacity to have discernment because of whatever issues, it's not my fault. And so you saw the picture of the squirrel and the apple that I have in my backyard. That's how I like to enjoy Mother Nature, when it's wild and free, not held in captivity. Now here we go. So this guy, Cody Osborne, you gotta look at his page. It's interesting. It's worth a gander to look at. The sign of Jonah. And he's showing you the path, or the path of the eclipse, the total eclipse. And it happened in 2017. Interesting. And it's going to happen again in April. And they're showing you the path. And it's like the X marks a spot. And it seems that's centered right in the Midwest when you think about it. Okay. Well, you know that California is going through all their storms. You see the doomsday maps that I've posted from Forbes, the billionaire bunkers. They're saying a meteorite or a comet shower or something is going to cause then lands to reformulate and other types of stuff, and tsunamis and all that, which I wouldn't doubt to be potentially true. We're going into some really crazy times. Well, anyway, so yeah, California's going through their own bullshit. They just had their first they had a tornado. I won't say first tornado, but they've had tornadoes, flooding, huge storms. We know that the South is going to go through their stuff. They're going through stuff right now. The Eastern Seaboard is going to go through their stuff, because you see the maps, and you know that there's going to be stuff going on in the middle of the U.S. There's the New Madrid fault line, and I knew about the New Madrid fault line a couple of years, like 10 years ago, because the conspiracy world doomsdayers were talking about that, and so it's interesting how Salem and Nineveh, because I see all these different names like Cairo and Salem, and all these are like Springfield and all that, right? There are a lot of redundant names, but I don't understand why would have like Salem, Vermont, Salem, Massachusetts, Salem, Idaho, Salem, Oregon, Salem, Ohio. But there's definitely a pattern going on. And again, I couldn't tell you exactly what the outcome of that pattern is going to be, but of course we're in this now world of where we're trying to survive this new great reset, and the conspiracy world was given the latitude to expose things progressively, and also was resisted by the mainstream. But yeah, the Rosicrucians are the Jewish mystics, Jewish theologists. They are the Christian Gnostics, Christianity. Then you have all the Hermetics, Stoicism, all the different spirituality under Hermetics and theology, or Christian and Jewish theology. And then you have the Greek and the Greek and the Egyptian alchemy, and of course Hermeticism, medicine. Everything is all woven together. And so you'll see snippets of the different mysticism, belief system, and theology, and all this stuff. You'll see different snippets happen at different times. Just like I said, 2 + 3 is 5. 5 books of Moses, 2030. When some things will calm down, then we hear about the 7-year, type of thing, where we're going to have 7 years of stuff, which I'll talk about 7. My birth date is like 7/11. It's weird. Okay, so, I mean, Anyway, so this guy, Cody Osborne, posted a thing called Sign of Jonah, but I actually got it from somebody else, Matt Landman, who is an anti-chemtrail activist. Okay, so I got it from his page. He got it from Cody, and so that's how the conspiracy world has been sharing information. I don't always agree with everybody in the conspiracy world, in the anti-chemtrails, anti-GMO, anti-V. But we all have a shared platform, which is we know something is wrong. We have our spin on it, and we all have our specialties around it. But we're all kind of like pieces of the puzzle, putting things together. So even though I may resist them on certain things, I'm sure they resist me on certain things, we still come from a general similar platform. Is we know something's going on, here's my piece of the puzzle. And I'll utilize your piece of the puzzle and give you props and let you have your, people look at your shit and you look at my shit and everyone's like, oh, figuring out some stuff through their own perspective. So anyway, and so my spin on it was rebirth. Okay. And but let me go to my spin. So I posted before the doomsday maps from Forbes, and they have it for all the different continents, but I just posted for the US because that's what he was focusing on, was the flight path or the eclipse path. That's going to happen April 8th. That even Ohio, they're closing schools in Ohio on that day because they know it's going to be kind of crazy, whether it's traffic or who knows what else. Okay. And so when you look at the doomsday map of the United States and you see the left side of the map, California's under the ocean, Nevada's under the ocean, Utah's under the ocean, half of Arizona's under the ocean, parts of Oregon is under the ocean, and then parts of Idaho is under the ocean. Okay? All covered with water. And so Arizona, New Mexico will have oceanfront property, and parts of Colorado, well, most of Colorado's going to be gone. Okay, and then you see on the other side to the right of the map, you see then where Texas, they're going to be flooded on the coast. How far inland? Well, I can't see that inland, but then Louisiana is going to be underwater. Mississippi is going to be okay. Alabama will be okay. A lot of Florida is going to be gone. A lot of the coastlines on the eastern seaboard are going to be gone. Then you have that big, is that Mississippi River, the Mississippi River going up and down. So parts of Indiana, parts of Illinois, parts of Arkansas, and parts of Missouri, the bottom part of Missouri, and even the top part of Ohio where the Great Lakes. Okay? So you see, so with that flight path or that eclipse path, and you see that from Salem, Oregon, that's making it all the way to the X, which is somewhere, where's the center point, the X? Right there, Salem, Illinois, Salem. That's actually, this is going to be April 8th. Everything's going to be centered around below Salem, Illinois, and above Salem, Kentucky, right at the bottom of Illinois. Okay? Then you're like, well, that doomsday map that shows areas of the U.S. underwater, that looks a little bit credible. So I merged in my hypothesis with the doomsday map, with what Forbes put out there, with that guy's projections. Okay. And so what did he say? Then I'll read what I said. The sign of Jonah, Matthew 12:39, an evil and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, and there will be no sign be given to it, but the sign of the prophet Jonah. Now, just so you know, the generation, we're in Generation X, the middle child. Okay, Christianity, the middle child. You have your Jews as the eldest child, Christianity as your middle child, and you have the Muslims as the youngest sibling. Then you have the boomers as the eldest sibling, and you have the Gen X as the middle sibling, and then you have the millennials as the youngest sibling. Okay, everything is kind of synchronized when you think about it. Jonah 33:9-10, Jonah arrived in Nineveh and urged the people to repent, otherwise the city would be destroyed. And you see people in the Bible Belt are already repenting, right? Strong people, strong religion. Right-wing Christians are strong people. And you're being given a choice, and the left is trying to save your women from being used as baby makers and sex slaves. And yeah, the left is highly sexualized. Yeah, California, highly sexualized. Okay, whether it's, Pamela Anderson types, or, hot Stepford wife types, or, LGBTQ with children, or LGBTQ with no children. California has so many different types of sexualities. California has been over-sexualized, like aggressively over-sexualized. Okay? So the sign of Jonah has been speculated to be an eclipse, but most likely the sign was literally showing up to the city of Nineveh and preaching repentance. The Lord always warns before he pours out his wrath. Okay, the Freemasons always tell you what they're going to do before they do it. If you want to go into the conspiracy world and look at how they do things. And so the Lord always warns before he pours out his wrath, and it seems like this generation is receiving a sign of 2 solar eclipses forming an X over the land, which are 7 years apart. Luke is 21:25, and there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon earth distress of nations, when with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. So the jade juice was discovered around that time. I think I got my steam around 2017. That's interesting. Remember, it was 7 years I developed this protocol. 7 years that I have finally birthed myself. It takes 7 years for marriages to either rise or fall. The 7-year itch. 7 days a week. 7 is huge. 5 is where you see the past, right? 5 is the Deuteronomy. Looking at the past and learning from mistakes. That's the 5 books of Moses. The warnings and messages is still the same. Repent and turn to the Lord before the wrath of God is poured out. Now, I'm not religious, but you know how people are. But when you think about it, it's the Illuminati, the Freemasons, those who are pulling the strings, whatever, or the freaking Anunnaki out there in space pulling the strings. Who knows, okay? Call it what you want. But they're saying repent and turn to whoever before the wrath of God is poured out. Exodus, April 8th. If they do not believe the first sign, 8/21/2017, they will believe the second sign, 4/8/2024. Wow. This eclipse on April 8th, 2024 will go directly through 7 cities with the name Nineveh. 7 is a number of perfection, or the number of the plan of God. Wow. The eclipse also passes through 12 cities named Salem. Another interesting fact is Jerusalem was once called Salem. Wow, oh my God. Nineveh, Texas, Nineveh, Indiana, Nineveh Township, Ohio, Nineveh, Pennsylvania, Nineveh, New York, Nineveh, Nova Scotia, Nineveh, Missouri, Salem, Indiana, Salem, Illinois, Salem, Texas, Salem, Arkansas, Salem, Ohio, just down the road from me, Salem, Pennsylvania, Salem, New York, Salem, Vermont, Salem, Massachusetts, Salem, South Carolina, Salem, Maine, Salem, Tennessee. You can't make this stuff up. And then what did I say? Rebirth and recenter. The beginning of the end of the beginning. Christians are the middle children. They see the past, they see the future, and they're being given a choice. Jews, Christians, Muslims. Now look at the doomsday maps and speculate where the rebirth will recenter. And why do you think Israel and Palestine are fighting each other? The oldest and the youngest siblings must have it out. Why do you think we invaded Iraq and took down Nineveh? It wasn't Nineveh at the time, but we took down where Nineveh was originated. Nineveh, modern day Mosul, Iraq, was one of the oldest and greatest cities in antiquity. It was originally known as Ninua, a trade center, and would become one of the largest and most affluent cities in antiquity. It was regarded highly by ancient writers and others than those who created the biblical narratives, which cast it in a negative light. The area was settled early as 6,000 BCE, and by 3,000 BCE had become an important religious center for worship of the goddess Ishtar. Now that's what I'm saying, rebirth, Ishtar. These are what people in the Hebrews who don't like Ishtar that say that she's a devil or something, or some Christians think that Ishtar is like the devil. The meaning of the name is disputed, but most likely related to the prefix Nin or Nina, which often appears in the name of deities. Ninhursag, okay, the pantheon, the Sumerian pantheon, Ninhursag, Ninurta, among many others, and could have meant house of goddess, or specifically house of Ishtar, as the city was associated with that goddess from an early date. So I'm also watching those born again Christians that are like, oh gosh, Easter is Ishtar, and you're seeing even the Hebrews say this, Easter is Ishtar, and you're just like, what? Okay. I mean, it's some crazy stuff watching the different religious people have an issue with some of the things of the past. Okay, and then there's the doomsday maps, and you can read that. And so then, I'm going to assume that the places like the Midwest that isn't so like the coast, like New York, which is going down the drain with all the immigrants, right? Because the immigrants are fighting the police and all that stuff. And nothing against the immigrants, but there's so much of them that I don't know what kind of chaos is going to happen or what they were assuming is going to happen. But New York is going through their own stuff. California is going through their own stuff, border wars and crazy weather and all of that. And so I figure that the richest parts of the world in America are going to be now turned to either a drug tourism like California, San Francisco, or turn into a place for sanctuary for the immigrants to figure out where they're going to go. Some will stay in the coast and deal with the hurricanes and deal with all the different crazy weather and the snow and all that stuff. And then some will figure out and be placed somewhere in the Midwest. I mean, we have immigrants here that are working in the factories, giving people here who have worked their asses off for many years a break. And someone is still bringing them bacon, making the bacon. Okay? And so I figure that the Midwest is going to turn into a metropolitan that is going to be like the Hanging Gardens or something. You have beauty and affluence and aqueducts, because then we have the Great Lakes. It doesn't make sense to be all the way out in California where you have to bust in water from the Colorado River or someplace. And it's so dry in California. Okay, so it makes more sense to make the metropolitan center somewhere in the Midwest, right? Even a factory, tortilla factory relocated from California to Kansas. What did they know that we don't? It's not just the economy. I mean, I'm sure that's part of it. So I'm thinking that the Midwest is going to be the new beautiful Babylon. All right. So, yeah. So they're saying that Candida auris is going to be spreading across the U.S. We can't stop it. And my first book was called Candida, Weaponized Fungus, Mainstreaming Mutancy. Oh, Lordy. Okay, and I'm also saying people self-medicate in groups. So if you're not into group mentality, maybe you don't need to be self-medicated by people around you. All right, so yeah. Hold on. All right. So the family was a petri dish to study every combination you can think of. So when you think about the 1960s and even before that, the system had to figure out how to study the family to develop the best kind of society, new society, the best kind of society, innovation, and the best kind of people. And the system gave people so much power and influence over lesser beings to see what kind of parenting styles coupled with religions and politics and science would develop what kind of children and adults. And so when I'm looking at then the Jewish, the Christian, the Muslim, which is basically the West, a Judeo-Christian population with Muslim influence, of course. We have Saudi Arabia, we have all the different countries that are Muslim and all that. So the three siblings, the middle child, the middle child sees the past and the future. Jewish, eldest sibling. Christian, middle child. Muslim, youngest child. But then on top of that, you have Gen X. Okay, the middle child between the two generations, sandwiched between the boomers and the millennials. It's not a coincidence that Israel and Palestine are in conflict with each other. It's a family war. Okay, we must watch it play out. If the parents of the system must get involved, they will, such as the UN, the World Health Organization. Everything comes out in the wash. All of us have been under extreme heavy experimentation. All of us have been given power over something to see what we would do with that power. Some people abuse their power. Other people use their power for innovation. Many people are given power to sell a person, place, or thing, protocol, spirituality, religion, politics, or scientific process. What do you mean a person? People sell their kids all the time into the system. or they sell their kids to other families. I mean, sell their kids. Well, she's 23 years old and she has a degree and she's hot and she's sexual and she's cute. She's marrying, she's marriage material, and she is then pawned off to the nearest family that looks good on paper. And so how are you using your power? And so then you see how many Jews are in the world, which I guess population doesn't really matter. 15.7 million, maybe it does. Christianity has 2.38 billion followers. So I hypothesized why there's so many different Christian sects. It was all SECTS. It was all sociological and theological experimentation. The 1960s Christian revival and all the offshoots. But even before that, you had like the Jehovah's Witnesses and all the different offshoots. Protestantism and Lutheran and, oh my gosh, Catholicism and born again Christian. And then you have the Baptists and all, oh my gosh. So Muslim, as of 2023, the world's Muslim population is over 2 billion. This represents more than 25% of the global population. And so when you see that Christianity is 31.6%, okay, and then you see Muslim is 25%, they're going to have to get together and hang out together. Then you have the eldest sibling kind of oversee the process. But some people are not evolving. They don't like their brothers and sisters. They don't like their younger brothers and sisters, so they try to annihilate them. Some people don't like their older brothers and sisters, so they try to annihilate them. Then you got to find a happy medium between the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims. And we're figuring that right now. Okay? And so I'm not going to read all that. But you get it, that there's certain characteristics, even with the generations, the boomers, the Gen X, and the millennials. And so then, this is where, when this guy was talking about Babylon and all this stuff, what happens when you abuse your power? The bigger you are, the harder you will fall. And so people say that America abused our power. Well, potentially, yeah. We were given a lot of power. Family and friends and associations, innovation and prestige and pleasure and paradise and sexuality and hot chicks and hot guys and innovation and all that, right? Technology. What happens when you abuse your power? The bigger you are, the harder you will follow and fall. The fall of Babylon and the rise of the New World, all in the same area. There's no guarantee the same people will be in the same place when everything settles down. Be the one to survive. 15 years ago, many people thought in California that I was crazy believing in the conspiracy world. They made fun of me. Maybe I wasn't crazy as you thought. Maybe I saw things and felt things more than you did. Maybe I wasn't crazy as everyone thought back in the Dr. Phil days. Maybe I'm not really crazier now questioning people's abuse of their power, and sexuality is a form of abuse of power. All sexuality is. The family and relationships are a type of abuse of power because even though you get consent, what are you consenting to? Is that person mature enough in the mind, body, and spirit to consent to whatever? And age is just a number. Though we say 18 and over is when you can make consent. But there are some people who are not mature enough even at 18. And they're giving consent. And then 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 5 years later, now they go get married to some dude that looks good on paper. And she'll probably get pregnant and fall apart. Some people don't even know what they're consenting to. Abuse of power, family forcing that daughter to get married to someone that looks good on paper. Abuse of power. Maybe it's time to question who you are, what you have been, and what you choose to believe, and what traditions you still follow. The system wouldn't fuel the fire if they didn't have something prepared for us that everyone needed to be exposed to on some level. The system used so many resources to develop these storylines that will eventually come to fruition. Trillions of dollars have backed up these campaigns way before your grandparents were born. This is way bigger than your little world of fantasy. This is way bigger than me. This is way bigger than all of us. Start paying attention. I keep telling people in California, if you can afford to leave, some of you can't afford to leave. But I understand family keeps you rooted. I hope that isn't your last hurrah. And so it's very hard to say where the safest areas are going to be because we have so much trials and tribulations to go through that even the people I'm around today here in Ohio, myself, there's no guarantee we're even going to be here. But in my opinion, I think I'm in the safest area for now, but then everyone thinks they're in the safest area. There's no proof you're in the area that is safe, Jillian, or that's safest, Jillian. People want proof. Okay, remember indicators. All right, since you don't know the playbook, you have to listen to indicators and warnings, but also use the past as a barometer if you can remember. I will list out why I think my area is the best, and then you can figure it out on your end. So number one, I'm not on the shoreline of anything. I don't feel any earthquakes at the moment or even in the past here where I'm located. I'm not in Tornado Alley. I'm not in hurricane country. I don't live so rich. I don't live so poor. I'm in a modest neighborhood with modest people and humble people. I really like my neighborhood. I really like my neighbors. The area that I'm in, have strong people, strong work ethic, moral citizens for the most part. I'm not in a flood zone. The economy is relatively okay where I'm at. I have a basement. I'm not in a huge city with so many people that could go crazy. I'm glad I'm not in Cleveland or any other huge metropolis. I'm in a rural city, and it's very diverse. Both black and white live together in relative harmony. People aren't so over-sexualized. It's out of control over here, no. And if they are, it's behind closed doors. It's not in your face. Don't get me wrong, I have tolerance for all types of diversity, but I don't need to know what you do behind closed doors. If you have kids, we all know what you did. That's not a mystery. If you don't have kids, we don't need to know what you do in the bedroom. It's none of our business. And it's very quiet in my neighborhood. I have to really hand it to my neighborhood and my neighbors. They are extremely respectful for the most part. Sometimes people have domestic issues, but those are very few and far between. Usually when those situations happen, it was because the frequencies were really insane. But all in all, my area is not bad. I like being located next to a huge salt mine because that's right there up in north, under the Great Lakes. And we have the Great Lakes, a lot of water. That's not bad at all. I think I'm in the best area. Okay, so you figure out where you are relative to the doomsday maps and figure out the weather changes, the weather patterns, what they project, climate change, and you figure out if you're in the best area. And if you can afford to move, I would do it. So now, here's the thing with absolute power corrupts absolutely. And this is the main crux of it all. But I had to lead up to this point, right? Abuse of power. And I see the patterns when people give their power away to the medical and holistic system and to other people, regardless of orientation. And if you haven't established your boundaries and even question your own lifestyle, people abuse their power. When someone takes away your power from you, people try to go and find it somewhere else. That's called energy conversion. That's why you see the rise of all the cult gurus and religions with people selling remedies and protocols. When people are in deficit, they will take whatever they can get anywhere and they don't care. People who are losing steam are trying to find it somewhere else and they don't care where they get it. And that's why Charles Manson was what he was. He was the master manipulator and he taught people how to become a destructive guru, selling people dreams and hopes. And he knew how dangerous hot girls were going to be in the future as well as family. Sharon Tate was a representation of the future. A hot wife with children who keep her husband in line and feeding into the traditions and pleasures and paradise. Roman Polanski probably knew. That's why he wasn't around. He was out of town when she was annihilated, when all of her friends were annihilated. But you can't prove it. I just speculate. But he's not even, he did his own issues and he was ousted out of the country. Well, he wasn't ousted, he left. He can't be extradited from where he is. Manson knew how to catalyze his minions to destroy everything he told them to destroy based upon his belief and love. Manson knew how to sell love. Now look at all your love groups out there. Now we're watching everything unfold. The train has left the station. And so I say recoup what little dignity you have from the past and find a way to survive this effed up time because it's going to be effed up for a while. Time to figure out a game plan because what the hell are you working for when the future is not very bright right now or it's so bright people won't survive the energy conversion. The system is trying to tell you. But then I know what jail you're in. You're up against your friends and family and your belief system. And I know as soon as you try to make changes, your friends and family will call you stupid and crazy. And then go right back to what you did before because you have to have that validation from them. That's how the system got you, which will be your undoing. So we just watch. We watch people die for their beliefs and their families and their friends. We watch people die for their religions. We watch people die for whatever it is that keeps them rooted. That's how the system got you. The system made everyone a cult leader. They made so many people gurus of death and destruction. The system gave people power over their life and death, over their power of life and death of their friends, over their friends and family and community through licenses and intimidation. The system made people monsters, and now they're cleaning up the system. People have made their choices and they will stand by them and justify if they cannot move. If they cannot move their lifestyle or belief system. If you can't stop Hitler and Manson's, right? Make everyone a Hitler and Manson and then program them to destroy each other, but at least it's a controlled decline versus a chaotic one. And that's freaking genius. And then people can't see it within themselves and they accuse each other. And they're right. Everyone is a Hitler or a Manson out there until they figure out they were programmed to be that and then do something different called deprogram. Sometimes the actual disease is the cure for the disease. Cures are deadly. Now you understand why I have no more pets anymore, why I don't have children, why I don't entertain people who are needy, and why I don't want to be so influential in your life that you look up to me or look down at me. That's a dangerous power to have. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. The family is a representation of absolute power along with licenses and aggressive authority. And I am in equal partnership with my husband, and I have established my boundaries, and so has he. And I will listen to my government in certain situations. Other situations, I will consider their suggestions. Okay? So now you're seeing that having family and pets is like wielding and lording your power over something lesser than you. And then the Stanford prison experiment shows you what happens when people get that kind of power. They hold people hostage. They hold their friends hostage. They hold their family hostage. They hold their children hostage through love, through violence, through intimidation, through sexuality, through pleasure and paradise. And now you see why people can't get out. They're held hostage. And so we just watch everything play out, and then we can say, I called it, but it won't matter. People will be gone. They'll be done. That's freaking crazy. So understand what's going on and figure out where you are and figure out if you can even look at your own addiction to power, lording your power over lesser human beings, and why people are addicted to having children. Because people are addicted to the power dynamic. And that's humans at this point. Bye.